What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Flyin podcast. I'm your host, Sam, this time with Ryan and Zach. Ryan asked me to lead this one, so we're leading it, right? But dude, we're coming off a tough loss, guys. It's not going to be a very friendly episode. But Ryan, how are you doing right now?
Guys, I can't be like too mad about things the way that I'm looking outside and hearing some of the waves crashing, but it's definitely helped to dampen the fact that I was like severely depressed after this game. Just gutted, based on the vibes are good, you're feeling good, and then you just kind of get your heart just ripped out of your chest. But that seems to be a back and forth battle every time we play the Crew. So can't be too surprised by that.
Zach?
Yeah, I think coming out of this game, it really kind of shows what it feels like to be like a true soccer fan, like the absolute roller coaster of emotions. Like, we'll into it in the game, but or in the later in the podcast. But yeah, just the ups and the downs, like being up and then obviously minutes to go and you get it ripped out. So yeah, I agree with you, Ryan. It's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, I think for all three of us, I think we could say it was tough to see kind of the old FC Cincinnati rear its ugly head there in the second half specifically. But um, talking about more before the game, obviously, huge game, huge build up. I was so appreciative of the MLS and everybody else, like for actually doing its justice and hyping this one up because it's huge. This is the biggest rivalry in the MLS, and people got to see it on full display, and it definitely lived up to the hype, right? And the big thing that I was looking forward to was, and we were all looking forward to, was the sword pull. Ryan had mentioned last week, how do you follow up the sword pull that we had the week prior? And they come with the guy that we had been asking for what, 2, 3, 4 weeks since he got injured, and they have Hagelin do the sword pull. Ryan, what do we think about that?
In one aspect, I was super pumped about it. But in the other aspect, it's like, is it a bad omen to have somebody on crutches pull the sword? Like, I don't think that's ever going to happen again now that ended this way. It's Nick, though. I mean, he's a club legend. He's from Cincinnati. You love to see the energy that he brought in that moment. But overall, now looking back on it, you just kind of shake your head like, I don't know if we can do that again. I think 2 episodes ago, I called for Joe Burrow to do one. Just imagine what that would have looked like too if it went that way. So I don't know. Zach, what were your thoughts?
That's actually hilarious. I never even considered that, but yeah, just the bad omens and juju that we get with, but I think as a Cincinnati, we're just large on superstition. Um, every sport, obviously, like anything that we can do that, like even Kevin before the game, he's like, now I'm not ever going to go to a game because Ryan's going to give me crap for it. So it's like small things, like it just like lives in the Cincinnati blood.
Yeah, I think going into the game, you know, I know we had talked about last week where, oh my God, we got the win, and now we have guys coming back. Arias is fully healthy. We'll probably see him start. Maybe Obi comes in. Is the lineup what you thought, Ryan?
Yes and no. Number one, since the last episode, we hear all of this other drama unfold with Miazga. So that was in the back of my head this whole time. Like, I wonder how this is going to play out with already a thin back line, But to your point, Sam, the starting lineup comes out. Pretty much every face that we had from the previous game against Philly, except for Arias, starts on the right, I believe. Um, I was happy to see him out there, and I was hoping that it was going to be a healthy Arias, which we saw in 65 minutes that he played in. He did pretty well, and we'll kind of touch on that later. But the rest of the lineup is about what you expect. It's hard to see an Eastern Conference final, though, without the defender of the year. And I can't harp on that enough. That's the biggest thing that I took away from this game is how important, really he was to the team. The last time we played the Crew prior to this one, same thing happened. We got kind of destroyed. So I'm glad we actually started out better in this game, and really kind of, brought the energy. But he makes a difference. He really, really does. So, but that was kind of my first impression of the starting lineup.
Zach.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, I think going into, I mean, last episode we kind of touched on just all the different opportunities or possibilities that will come for this lineup this past weekend. And yeah, like pull in Wobodo and Arias from last week. I mean, in Wobodo, I mean, that was complete um, mystery at that point. So I think having him out as well starting, I think he was probably the one who had the flu, let's be honest. I know there was kind of rumblings of that. So
That's true.
yeah, I think you could tell later in the game when he came in, he just wasn't fully there, it seemed like. So I think on top of Miazga missing him, and just really not having that, I mean, those are your two huge destroyers, defenders, and missing out both of them was obvious.
And
Yeah,
I
I
think
think
you make such a good point on that. Sorry, Sam. Like,
no.
just with the fact that, like, the Crew are such an offensive team. So you have this glaring hole in the midfield with Obi out, with Miazga out, that's kind of directing things. But to be honest, like, you didn't really see it early on in the game. It was really later on, like you
Mhm.
said, Zach, when he came in and some of the other changes we made, it just didn't seem like the connection was there, the cohesion was there. We can touch on it a little bit later, but some of the subs that were made, Pat even took accountability for afterwards to say maybe those weren't the right people. At the very, very end, Barriel's, starting to cramp as well. Did sickness play something into this? I don't want to just write it off to that, but that's a good point. There was reports out earlier in the week that, a decent amount of the guys were out for that. That'd be a nice cop out thing to say, but the fact that we had a lead kind of reverses that. But Sam, what were you about to say before I interrupted you?
Oh yeah, I think the other thing you guys have touched on the other two pretty well with Arias and Obi, kind of being those two changes we might have thought or did happen. But the other one I was interested to see it was, after the last game, does Bupenza start, right? Because last game he was very wishy-washy with the ball, being careless, and obviously he puts in good moments for us here and there, but it was very glaring that he wasn't really taking care of the ball like we really needed. And I was interested to see if Baji slides in. Obviously, Baji comes in later in the game for good reason. But yeah, that was no changes up top, and going into the game, the first couple minutes, it's exactly what we expected and everybody had talked about. The Crew started off with possession and aggression. Not to rhyme a little bit there, but FC Cincinnati, is staying back and trying to get on the counterattack. And at the beginning, it just, for FCC, it was just like we were giving the ball away for free. Like it almost looked like it was the 80th or 90th minute and it was a 0-0 game and we were just trying to hunker down. Like that's what it looked like to me.
Yeah, I think they didn't really have their footing to start. And was the emotions of it too big? Like, was the moment at first, like, they kind of had to settle into the game, to your point. But leading up to, the 14th minute, we start to create a little bit more chances and you see a higher press. And that's what created the first goal. So I think we can get into that. High press on the wing. Barriel pressures the guy, causes a turnover for Bupenza to turn around, basically take the ball and whip in a really good ball to Vasquez, which he actually does very well with. The amount of times we've talked about brutal first touch for him over the course of this year. Like, he was going to be my honorary jersey shout out just because of the way that he took that pass. I mean, Bupenza hit it like 80 miles an hour at his foot, but he sets himself up perfect into the corner. So I thought it was a great moment. And 14 minutes in the game, you're feeling great against your rival. You're up one like that in front of the crowd, to kind of silence them too. Because Zach, I don't know if you could hear a lot of their chants or not, from that perspective, but it seemed like after that, at least on the broadcast, it kind of mummed it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good call. We never really got into the game day match part of it. I mean, just from being there, it seemed like you could only hear the Bailey. Let's be honest. I mean, all the fans were getting into the chants. It was great to see, and really, thankfully, our section didn't really have many crew fans, so I didn't hear anybody really shouting or whatnot. But I mean, with that goal, I mean, when we scored that, it was just eruption. It was we always say like it was the loudest. Like I think this past game that those first two goals were some of the loudest I've heard TQL get. Phenomenal atmosphere overall. I mean, you could imagine. So, but yeah, I mean, with that superb finish, just coming from like you said, Bupenza with that heater of a cross. Um, Bupenza seems to really get his foot on the ball and really connect with feet a lot better than we give him um like
Credit
you know
for,
what I
yeah.
mean, like yeah. So I think really Bupenza really got us the moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I think what was really cool, this last podcast, we had said, hey, we're looking for Vasquez to have a big game. Like, he needs to show up, and he did. Ryan, to your point, phenomenal touch. That's actually his first goal since September 30th, versus Toronto FC, when he had
Wow.
2 goals in that game. So it's been a while since he's had a goal in the back of the net. But I think he played really well over the course of the game, and I was happy to see him holding up play. Him and Lucho were playing really good when they had some time to do some counterattacking chances. But yeah, from there, 16th minute, I think 35th minute, both sides kind of had some crucial chances. I know Barreal had a chance there on his right foot, which doesn't usually go too well. But and then I think the Crew had 2 really, really good chances. Kind of tested Celentano a little bit, but then you get a little extra time free kick there going into the halftime, Ryan.
Interesting to see, because in the moment, real time, at least watching this moment, you think there's a ton of contact. And I think I even texted out in the group, like, you can say what we will about this. It created a goal. There wasn't much contact on his foot, let's be honest. And, hey, Vasquez is not in a great run of form, but he's feeling himself after, this goal. And, does he feel contact there? Does he not? And he goes down and creates this beautiful opportunity at the edge of the box. So you're thinking, okay, they're going to line up for a Barrial left-footed, kick, front post. We've seen him score many times this year that way. And they switch it up in a beautiful kind of flick backwards from Barrial to have Lucho running on it. And we've seen so many times where he just hits the first defender or the wall, and he just perfectly places it right around the edge of the wall into the side of the netting. I think there might have been a slight touch from a defender on it, but that's okay. I'll take it. It was beautiful. And Zach, I bet, at that moment too, about to go into half, like, you're up 2-0, you got to be thrilled.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, first off, I think we're definitely playing against the run of play. Like, Crew have been just hounding us shot after shot, and really we capitalize on the moments that matter. And this free kick, but honestly, I couldn't tell what happened from my angle. There was just a bunch of bodies, and honestly, I didn't even think it went in. But then when I saw the Bailey erupt, I was like, no, he did not just put that. Like, because I mean, there was how many bodies did that ball cross by? I mean,
3 or 4.
it was a miraculous that it got through, but
which is, I think, why it was so hard for the keeper to judge as to where it was, and they had the bodies kind of crossing, in front of it. So brilliant idea from the training ground. I think that was definitely a setup.
The funny thing is like that last player for the Crew was Cucho. Cucho ducks his head at the last minute to avoid the ball instead of, clearing it out, which once again, that's an attacker instinct rather than a defender. And I thought it was a funny point. say what you want about Taylor Twellman, but I thought he made a solid point on, like, right before the free kick. He was asking like why the Crew had Rossi and Matan on the wall, like two of the shortest guys in the league. I thought that was interesting as well, because once again, to your point, Ryan, you know, maybe Barrial's curling it in, maybe Lucho's curling it into that left corner. So I thought that was a good point, but you know, it works out for us. And going into half, we're up 2-0. And the unfortunate thing is the I guess that person in the back of your mind goes, hold up, the last Hell is Real game at TQL Stadium earlier this season, FC was
2-0.
also up 2-0 in that game.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
right before that second half of kickoff, I don't know if you guys rewatched it, or, you know, Ryan, if you saw it live while watching Apple TV, but Zach, they show the Columbus Crew huddle going into halftime, and you see Darlington Nagbe wiping away tears as he is trying to give some motivation and give some energy to this Columbus Crew team. And I thought, I mean, say what you want, but it's looking to see how the second half happened. They played with more passion. They played with, like, they wanted it more in the second half. And that's what I really just took away from that point.
So great point, because I personally felt like, number one, 2-0 is the most dangerous score in soccer. Not one, you know, because at one you're still playing pretty hard, but two, you feel just comfortable enough that once they sneak one back, it's like, oh crap, you know. But Sam, to your point, great point. The game we went to earlier this year at home at TQL, you know, how did that play a role into the confidence of the Crew to say, hey, we've been in this position before and we found a way out of this and we can battle back again. You know, I'm sure those words were shared, but you go into half and you're down 0-2 from their perspective, and you know, you really have to be more fiery, like you said, and create more chances. Where I feel like you're right, we're complacent, and in some points in this year, I felt like there was too much complacency, and that's kind of what you saw. I mean, the first, I would say 20 minutes in the second half, it's kind of a little bit nervy and it's leading. You're seeing some of the cracks start to, you know, occur a little bit, but um, I think we can kind of, you know, go up to it. The 73rd minute, Bupenza gets subbed out. And I felt like he had been doing a pretty decent job at least running around up front, trying to, you know, shadow some of their play and whatnot. But he gets subbed out for Baji, and then this goal happens like right away on an own goal. So a lot of people are kind of calling that, looking back on it, as kind of a shifting point, but I could start to see some of the cracks that were happening. Like you mentioned, Sam, there's just too much chances, too many, you know, if you're on the back foot the whole time like that, you're going to get tired. You're going to get worn out chasing the ball. And you don't have your leadership in there, the normal guys that you have that say, hey, we got this collectively. You know, we've been in these moments, and you don't have Obi in there, who was there, you know, all year to say that. And then he, you know, obviously subs in, but you need those guys. You need Miazga. You need some accountability to say, I know we're getting rattled right now, but let's figure it out. We got this.
Ryan's mentioning that first goal from the Crew, cross is played in by Julian Dressel, which I don't know, if you look at it, he might be offside on that right hand side. If he didn't have the referee right behind him also wearing yellow, I think they probably would have called it offside. However, the goal stands. But what
I was going to say right before that, actually, I wanted to make a good point on the fact that we could have been up 3-0.
Yeah.
Penza gets his shot saved by Schulte, and 3-0 is different than 2-0. And he makes a heck of a save on that effort.
Yeah, Zach, what was the reaction on that? Because obviously they call it a handball, and it was because you're not allowed to have the hand or arm have the ball go in. But what was kind of the reaction after that?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, is that the 51st minute when that happens?
68.
There's two. Yeah, there's two of them. There's
68,
one that was disallowed, and then the second.
Yeah, I was gonna say the one where I think there was like 3 or 4 shots that we ripped on him, like one after the other. And yeah, that final one where it kind of, I went back and watched the replay in live. That looked goal as ever. I mean, they did the smoke, they did everything. Like it looked clear. I mean, it looked pretty obvious from our perspective, and unfortunately from where we're sitting, we have kind of his like left side shielded, so you couldn't really see it. So we assumed it was in and good. And then, I mean, lo and
You can
behold, I'm
slow it
surprised.
down and yeah, you see like it touches arm like that. But like you said, Zach, I wonder if it's a moment of real time. You have to make that judgment call, and it looks real and it looks good. But like you said, you slow it down and you look at it and like, oh, well, you see it kind of hit his elbow. But
Yeah. Even then, though, I mean, I guess if it hits off his arm and goes in the goal, like, that's one thing. But I mean, I guess if it hits off your hip or your abs, it's another. But it's hard to say from where we were sitting.
Yeah,
man, how pretty would 3-0 have looked though for us? I
3-0 would have
mean,
been nice. 3-0 definitely would have been nice. Unfortunately, though, it is 2-1 after the own goal off of Alvis Pau's leg. Honestly, on that too, Celentano needs to punch that out. He missed the punch. If he doesn't miss the punch, there's no question there on anything, no goal score chance, nothing. It's just a regular cross that Celentano deals with. And we start the chant, right? Celentano in goal. But
Yep.
yeah, later on, you get more and more chances for the Crew, and you continue to see this theme of FC Cincinnati just getting battered and our guys just slowly having zero energy. And there's a couple of chances that the Crew have where I think Rossi has a chance where he gets his head on it, but it goes over the crossbar. So that's, a crucial chance. And then in the 85th minute, the Crew get another goal off a Gressel cross. Ramirez back heels it to Rossi, who dishes it to Cucho. To be honest with you, like it was a solid goal. But
what is
Cucho,
our defense doing in the box there?
yeah, they lose it, and Mosquera just he pokes it. He pokes it clear, and it falls right to Rossi, who finishes it in the back of the net. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah. Honestly,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say when I first rewatched that on or like seeing it live, I was like, damn, that was a pretty good looking goal. I mean, just from the like touching and like quick passing. I mean, and then I watched it on the broadcast, and I thought the same thing. And then I saw that other angle. I was like, no, that's Mascara's foot hitting it in. I'm like, Mascara, you're so much better than that. You cannot clear that to the middle of the box. Like, of all things, defender, that is not what you should be doing. So I thought that was a little mistake on his part, or
You guys
large.
want to know the difference of this game from their side versus our side? Obviously, their attacking style, and obviously our defender of the year being out. But Gressel, they bring in the transfer window in the summer, and Ramirez being another experienced guy that they bring in, but key players off the bench, where our subs that came in didn't really have the same energy and couldn't match that. But honestly, the way I look at it is, I feel we kind of failed our team in the summer transfer window in some ways. Like, I think Sam's going to kind of allude to this a little bit later on, so I won't go into too much detail. But that to me is the difference there. How many times did you say Grussel's crosses? Like you bring in quality subs like that with energy, and not that our subs weren't experienced, but just didn't seem to have the same mentality. So I felt like that was interesting.
Yeah, I think that's a great point there on Gressel being a key signing for the Crew, and it definitely showed in this game. Showing up on the wing there. Regardless who would, I mean, we take Arias out and he's firing crosses beyond Gaddis's legs or control. So I thought that was a good point. But then after the 90 minutes, you go, holy crap. At FCC, I heard the broadcast. They were saying that FCC had not let up a second half goal since August 23rd at TQL Stadium. I thought that was insane, right? Obviously, going into the game, they're calling the Crew a first half team, and FC Cincinnati is the second half team. It completely reversed this game, completely reversed, and that's just that's hell is real, right? That's exactly what it is. But going into full time, you can tell, and I think the broadcast made a good point of this. Pat Noonan goes directly to Lucho, right? And he goes, like, do you have another another 30 for me. Like, can you do this? And he kind of Lucho's kind of like, yeah, like I got it, and like shrugs him off. And if I'm Pat, you got to question that right away. Like that's not a captain for you right there who's got a lot of energy.
I think it's such an emotional 90 minutes, and you put your heart into that whole first half, and you're chasing the game. Like I said, like there had to be some flip, there had to be some maintaining possession or something that takes the pressure off of you. And we did have chances. We can't say we didn't, but Sam, to your point, after we get bombarded like that, you don't really see, like, in the extra time, too many chances, too much energy. Is that a fact that people were sick that week? Is that on the fitness team? I don't know, because they seem to have a ton of energy and we were gassed, but I don't think we used as many subs in the playoffs in the last several games, so they weren't necessarily ready for that moment, like they were, unfortunately, and that's the difference there. But
Yeah,
you're
I
at
think
home, you have to feed off your crowd, like you're
yeah.
in the playoffs, like you have to be able to find it, in that moment. And I don't know if that's something that just wasn't portrayed, or Sam, to your point, they look at the captain and they say, well, our captain's gassed, he's not really saying anything, he's tired, and they kind of all take that energy. I don't know.
Yeah, the only chance that we had was Baji's chance. There, I think it
Mm-hmm.
was what minute? 105th minute, I think. So,
Yeah.
and that was a solid chance. He just didn't get the ball out quick enough to get a shot off. But, yeah, the Crew end up scoring there in the second half there of extra time in 114th minute or 115th minute there. And to be honest with you, this all starts with Acosta losing the ball there on the sideline, and Acosta starts cramping up. Barreal starts to cramp up. And then Gressel then swings another cross over to no one, which they're looking for a foul there on Gaddis. There's nothing there. And then another Crew player crosses it back in. And what Cucho's wide open on the backside of the post. You're like, what? How did he? And then you look at the replay after Cucho heads it over to Ramirez, and it's an easy tap in goal. You see that Angulo is just jogging back, and you see Barreal kind of jogging back, but Angulo, like Cucho, is right in front of Angulo's face. Like that's on Angulo
Yeah.
right there.
Yep.
I think it's on him, but I think I see this video right before it. Like you said, Sam, you made a key point, is the cramping. Barrial had a tough time even getting back. So if you're not going to be able to get back, you tell Angulo, you have to take my position. You have to take my guy. And I don't think he spoke up in that moment.
Yeah, I think you both are right in that regard. Angulo should have tracked back with Lucho, with Cucho. I think, considering Ian Murphy, I mean, he had two guys he had to cover. You got to cover the closest man to you. So, yeah, I think at that point, I think, like you guys both said, Pat Noonan, he was criticizing himself for it. I think both subs, the Angulo and the Santos sub, should have came at the beginning of the extra time as opposed to that second half of that extra time, so they could settle into that game format that they were playing in. And I think because of that, I don't think Angulo really had the understanding that, I mean, granted, you just watched a full 90 minutes, but he didn't understand the full breadth of the field that he's going to have to cover, because, I mean, they're heavily attacking. So
Yeah.
you also need to get back on defense. But,
When's the last time that he played? Tell me that. I said this a few podcasts ago. When is the last time Angulo played minutes?
We were talking about it for however many weeks, and I know we had mentioned, who do we want coming off the bench, right? And we had mentioned that collectively Pinto would probably be the better option, because defensively he had shown throughout the year that he can step up and not only sub in for Lucho, but also be a second defender next to Obi. If they do take Moreno out or want to put Kubo as a center attacking mid or just a midfielder, he's able to lock that down rather than Angulo. We've seen it all year.
Discipline.
Yeah.
Discipline, discipline, discipline. If you're having a team that's slamming the ball down your throat, you need to have somebody that knows where they are on the field, who's got who, and can communicate. Granted, he's similar age to Angulo, but showed more maturity throughout the year. So I agree with you there. My second point on subs, I'm going to go back to subs again, is you bring in some experienced people towards the end up top, but again, people that either had been coming off injury or hadn't been producing, whereas Ramirez is kind of a proven goal scorer and has been able to find hot streaks. So again, what options did we really have off the bench to create chances? And I think that depth that we had, that we really loved all year long, was good in some ways when they were good, and when it was bad, it was terrible. So I think you're seeing over the course of, how many games did we play this year? 50 games. How much depth is a huge thing, especially in these playoffs. And, obviously there's things you can't control, like one of your players being out, haggling, and then another player that gets suspended. So you can't predict some of these things too, but it's easy for us to say, oh, this should have been better. This should have been better. But man, we were that close. And that's the biggest thing that I want to say is what an unbelievable season. It's way better than what we've seen before. And I think it only gets better from here. I really hope we can retain some people, and we'll kind of get into this later too. But yeah, overall, I'm disappointed, but I've had a day or two now to kind of think about it. So
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to deal with the crippling depression like Sam and I do.
Yeah, I know. He's sitting on the beach there. He'll be fine. Shake it off. I'm sure reality will hit him back in the face once this next week. We have to watch the Columbus Crew versus LAFC in the MLS Cup final. But to wrap up the recap here, we'll do some trivia of the week. We'll go into the break and we'll come back on the other half. But Zach's got a trivia of the week for us.
Yeah, I'll shoot it over to you. Here we go. You guys ready? It is, how many teams have won Supporters Shield to go on to win the MLS Cup? Number of teams, and then bonus if you can name the teams.
Okay. I'm trying to think of like those storied franchises that we have here in the MLS. My first thought is I'm going to go with 5, and teams would be, I'm going to go Seattle Sounders, LA Galaxy, DC United, Columbus Crew, and then LAFC.
yeah, I think I'm going to go 4. DC, Galaxy, LAFC, and Seattle.
Some good guesses. All right, we'll be back.
So Agility is a technology-driven soccer training facility. So we offer 6 facets of training. That would be Tech Touch with ball launchers that work on your first touch, the TSZ, which is the ESA equipment and working on decision making. We also have a circuit. Circuit training would be taking the ESA equipment to the next level. It's kind of like a soccer obstacle course. Then we offer neuroscience training with our reflection tools, working on processing things a little bit faster, hand-eye coordination and such. We offer skills classes, which is your typical core skills training. Lots of people still enjoy that, so we work on a lot of attacking 1v1 skills. And then we also offer athlete development. So our athletes come here and they work on speed, agility, quickness, explosive movements, really just learning how to move and function a little bit better as an athlete.
We are back, Flying Lion podcast, second half of the podcast. Boys, we already recapped everything, went over trivia of the week. It's time to get into the regular segments that we do. And we'll start off with Ryan. We're going to do jersey swaps of the week. What was your jersey swap of the week?
My jersey swap of the week was Aaron Penza. Sam, you talked about early on in the first segment. We've been harping on this guy from the last couple of games, but in the first half he showed up, and I felt like he actually had a pretty meaningful performance up top. My honorable mention was Brandon Vasquez. with his goal. We had been wanting him to, score a goal because it's been a while. But Bupenza otherwise had 4 shots, 2 on goal, 1 assist. Came off in the 73rd minute, but to me, it was hard to pick one, to be honest. But it was my jersey swap.
I'm gonna be completely honest. I I'm not a big fan of that jersey swap right there. Mainly because I had one of my themes of the game was that Bupenza kept giving the ball away. That was my biggest theme to the game. Like, it seemed like every time he had, besides the assist to Vasquez, after that, it seemed like every time he touched the ball, he lost it to some degree. And I was getting a little frustrated with him. That's why I had mentioned, I thought Vasquez was a lot better at doing a little bit more hold up play with Lucho and Barreal and Arias there. But yeah, I mean, Bupenza did play well for a second. And then I thought, once again, he's messing around out there trying to do too much and needs to get the ball out of his feet. But that was my perspective. Zach, do we need a third take on that?
No, I think you kind of hit it on the head. I'm kind of surprised, Ryan. It's not like you. I think honestly, really, I think you should have gone with Vasquez on this one.
Thanks, guys, for correcting me on that. Actually, I think that was probably wrong by me. But honestly, let's go with the theme of this episode. All right, let's go. Let's just keep all this sob feeling, going. And the fact that Vasquez might be gone and this guy we're stuck with, I'm just trying to find things that are positive about this guy because we're going to be stuck with him. So there we go. That's what I'm going to say about that.
Oh,
but
man.
Zach, what was your jersey swap of the week?
That's fair enough, Ryan. I appreciate the candor. I think we all know he's had the best season that he's ever had. We're gonna go with Lucho. Finish off the season. I think he had a fantastic match for what he played, in my opinion. I mean, he had a magnificent bender, the finesse that he was able to put on that free kick, more or less a free kick. I know you kind of criticized him a little bit, Ryan. I think him saying that he had a little bit more in him. I think it was his feeling of, being in Cincinnati. We always have this expectation for players to come in and, fight to the end and really give it their all. And I think he really wanted to show that in a way. I think he really wanted to stay out there and show Cincinnati, and he wanted to win it for us. And I think it really, him as a captain, I think it really showed. I think, him on the front line, he's injured, and he's trying to give it his all. I think it was more to show the other people hey, I'm still in this and injured. You need to do your hardest and work your hardest to, finish this off. I think it really showed in him in this game. So that's my jersey swap.
Sam, what was your jersey swap of the week? Unless you want to comment, because I'm going to steal both of yours. I already seen what you both put, and I wish I would have stolen both of them because Zach, that was perfect.
Yeah, I think Lucho, to Zach's point, I mean, the guy gave it all. He gave it his all. I mean, that's all you can ask from this game. Obviously, that's not on him for Pat leaving him out there. I mean, what are you supposed to say? Nah, I suck. Take me off, right? No, he did the right thing. He did the thing that we all would have done, which as a captain, you're like, no, I'm good to go. I can do it. And he just didn't have his legs in him because once again, he played his heart out during that all those 90 minutes there. But yeah, my jersey swap of the week is Barreal. Once again, to kind of ride off of what Zach said, Barreal played his heart out too for FC Cincinnati in what was likely going to be his last game in an FC Cincinnati jersey. This guy played all 120 minutes and recorded an assist, which was that back heel to Lucho. He had the most touches for FC Cincinnati with 88, and he also had the most tackles with 5. So down that left-hand side, he was shutting stuff down when the crew was really putting it on, putting the crosses in. He was kind of taking away those chances, either recovering or just playing straight up defense, which isn't really Barreal's game. Usually he's that guy flying up the left-hand side, putting in a lot more crosses. But He's definitely going to be missed, and it was awesome to see him grow into his own at FC Cincinnati.
I'm going to get too sad talking about this. Next episode, I think we're going to really do a deep dive and a recap of the season. But Sam, he played his heart out this game, and we've seen it all year. The dude's played in the most matches of any player of our team. And this was no exception. You see him out there cramping. He can barely even walk, and he's trying to get back in position. Maybe he could have done a little bit better at communication, but I can't fault the guy on effort. He's consistently shown, he's got it. He's top class. Wherever he goes, man, I want to follow. I want to get a jersey. Buy in. Barrial is the real deal.
Man, you guys are cheesing it up. I love it. I agree with everything you both are saying. I think coming out of, I guess, first getting him to now, just seeing the vast difference in player, like the maturity, the actual play style has changed dramatically, not traumatically. Let me correct that. Big difference on that. No, I think, you're right. Barrial, he's one to follow. Definitely going to miss him.
You could see him hugging the fans after, and I mean, just how much it meant to him. And, he posted on his Instagram today, the fans and the orange and blue. And I don't know. It's like one of those, have you guys seen the WWE guy where he's like crying?
Yeah.
And it's like when your kids ask you about Barrial, that's going to be what mine's going to be.
Yeah, Vince McMahon.
Like 100%. 100%. It'll be Lucho, but it'll be Barrial. It'll be both.
Well, like I had said, he's kind of grown up in front of our eyes, right? And he's become a completely different player than what he arrived as. So it's going to be tough to see him go, but we'll touch on that in the coming weeks, months. But kind of slide into something sad, mad, whatever you want to make it, is our card of the week. Ryan, what was your card of the week?
Guys, I hate that this is happening again. Alvis Powell received direct messages with some racist comments again. And as huge fans of Alvis Powell this year and his performance, the way that he's respected everyone in this community, we welcome Alvis Powell from this podcast and wish him the best of luck, and our sincere apologies that he had to go through this. There's no room for this ever, like we've said with Baji's situation, but it happened again. No matter which way you want to look at it, you can be disappointed all you want in this rivalry. At the end of the day, it's a game, and you shouldn't treat another human being that way. Alvis has got such a good heart, I can tell. He sent us a message before this last game on Instagram. Actually, I'm sharing this with everyone just because I thought it was so special. Zach, you shouted him out last week for your jersey swap, and the dude said, "Hey, I haven't gotten that much love in my career, and I really, really appreciate it." So, of all the people, I feel for him the most. And Alvis, we're here for you, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we all second that here from the Flyin Line podcast to Alvis. Huge fans of his, and he played a phenomenal game. Once again, this whole team, they played their heart out. And on that back line, it could have been 1-0 real quick, Columbus Crew the other way at the beginning of the game. Alvis, clears it off with his head. He uses his head, almost his face. I thought it hit his face to begin with because the ball was hit so hard. But yeah, he played phenomenally. And you can't really make up for Ryan saying we were missing out the defender of the year. So him stepping up into that center back role, I thought he did a great job. But yeah, Zach, you have any comments on that?
No, honestly, I both of what you said is enough. I think obviously there's no room for racism or anything like that. I think Albus, you have our hearts. We're here to support you. Any FC Cincinnati player for that matter. If you ever need anything, we're here.
Yeah. On top of
Absolutely.
that, Zach. So what was your card of the week then?
Oh, I kind of feel for the Columbus Crew right now. Gonna be honest. So hear me out. Had we won that, I think the MLS Cup ticketing would still affect us just as bad. Face it, Ryan. I don't think you and I would get a ticket. I'm just going to throw that out there. I think just with all the, um, just going to say BS that the supporters groups that the Crew have faced with trying to get tickets has been unreal. I mean, the fact that they're getting scalped, even in the uh, supporters group section, the Nordeck, it's like, what the heck is going on here? Like selling out to sponsors. Obviously, I mean, it's kind of a given. It's MLS, they had control of the tickets, but I think it was a complete mess and failure from the start. Um, Truthfully, like I said, Ryan, I think we would run in the same situation, and I kind of feel for them.
Hey, Zach, you want to come join me down here in the Bahamas with that money you could have spent?
I know, right?
Alvis, you can come down too. Yeah, dude, you're spot on. It's crazy to think that if you're going to set up this MLS Cup final game and hype it up being in your home stadium, then you give your supporters the benefit of having that. That's the reason why they have home field advantage. I don't care about all these LA people. They're able to afford this, that, travel. Like, they hosted it last year. It's ridiculous that the MLS, again, is making goofy rules. We've seen it time and time again. It's a reoccurring theme every week. But that's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, I think with the MLS ticketing in general, I think, once again, it's going to be like that for the big games. I'm not going to sit here and say what Zach just said and say that I feel for the Columbus Crew, because I don't. But as far as an MLS fan in general, I can definitely see where you can come into a situation like that and be like, what the heck? Like, where are our tickets to support our team? That's just, that's unfortunate. It is. But going off of that, I was trying to decide what I wanted my card of the week to be. I know Ryan had mentioned I was going to talk about, possibly some future stuff. But I changed it. I figured we could put all that, on a different podcast, probably an off-season podcast, a little bit better for that. But I wanted to go off of kind of Zach's, but my card of the week is the fact that Columbus got to celebrate their title at TQL Stadium. Oh man, I mean, there's nothing you can do about it, but it stings. It really, really does. Watching the Apple TV celebration afterwards on our home turf, it
You
it
watched
hurts.
it?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I
He's trying to be like the players where they watch it.
yeah,
and
exactly.
they're getting themselves psyched up for next year to be
exactly. You watch
Respect.
all these football players after their conference games just standing there and being like, "Oh, next year, this is what it feels like. Feel it, Um so
yeah,
just
they should have
watching
just sat there and looked at that.
watching your biggest rival celebrate the conference title on your turf is just a disgusting sight to witness. And once again, I mean,
Hey, Sam, guess what? That'll be the last time they're going to celebrate this year. So,
oh, heyo, a little sneak peek into what we're going to talk about the rest of the podcast here. But yeah, I thought, my goodness, like, this just, it doesn't feel right at all to see yellow and black only in the stadium. Every orange and blue was just out of that stadium, and it was only yellow and black, and it was just, it didn't feel like it was just so weird. It was weird, and I didn't like it, and I wanted them to just like go home. Then you can go to your stadium and then you can celebrate there. Like, just do it on your own time, not on our turf.
I'm going to piggyback off both of you and kind of combine this. The Crew fans earlier in the week that were complaining that we only gave them 200 tickets, that's the minimum, and it's a rivalry game. So get over yourselves. I don't know if you guys saw that or not, but like, do you think we're going to give you more than that? You think we're going to be generous and be like, oh yeah, we'd love to have more of you here? Like, no, you guys would do the exact same to us. So don't act like you're better than us like that.
Oh man. But yeah, to
I don't
Ryan's
know.
point, yeah, going into the next topic here, we've got the Crew versus LAFC. Um, Obviously our season's over, so now we have to watch two teams that are in the MLS Cup. And it's going to be at the Crew Stadium. It's going to be cold, and it's going to suck for LAFC. But guys, what are our thoughts on this
That's
MLS Cup?
sorry, Sam. Yeah, I mean, the first thing I was just gonna be like, number one, I'm not gonna watch it because I don't want to give Apple any more of my money. I don't want the MLS to benefit off of this. Um, it's in Ohio. That's kind of cool. Stayed at least in Ohio. It's not in LA. But you're right. I mean, LA is coming into 30-degree weather, and like they have an unfair advantage in a way, right? But I mean, you could say that in any sport. NFL, all these teams that are from warm markets and they get to play, in Miami for the Super Bowl or whatever. I mean, it happens in every single sport, but LA's going to dominate this game. Let's be honest. No, I don't know. It'll be a good game. It'll be a good game, but yeah, I mean, come on. We're not going to sit here and say we want the Crew to win this. Come on, Sam.
Zach, what are we
Oh,
thinking?
heck no. I mean, I'm gonna voice my opinion and be honest here. It's full of hot takes, right? I guess it's not very often that you get a conference final in Ohio on top of a MLS Cup final, well, MLS Cup match in Ohio. You got to respect Ohio for what they are. I mean, they're coming in hot with soccer, like some of the best soccer in obviously the United States. And I'm gonna pull out for Ohio. I think Ohio has what it takes to win. They have a conference final and then now an MLS Cup. So let's do it. You got to be honest. Growing up, I'm going back to my roots. Columbus Crew is all we had. You got to respect it for what it is.
Ryan's watching this podcast deteriorate
See,
as we speak.
Zach, I've been waiting for the moment for us to have a team for all of these years. So I didn't have to
Exactly.
watch them in that terrible stadium that they used to play in with all of these fans that don't even know they even have a professional team. It's on plenty of videos around the city. So now that they don't have Ohio State in the college football playoff, maybe they'll watch this game. Maybe. We'll see. We'll see the population of people that actually even know the game is there.
That's a good point. That's a good
I'm
point
being
on
silly.
that.
I'm being silly, but like, come on. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, there's not a ton of people there that actually follow the Crew.
Yeah, I
the
think
people that are there that do are diehards and they really support their team and they've been there for a while. But
I think that's a good point as far as ratings go. I wonder how much of a game this is going to be. Is it going to be watched that much? Obviously, TV wise, I think they picked a pretty good time to have the MLS Cup final. As far as just how it falls, right? College football and the bowl games, they don't really start. I guess do they start next week? Possibly. But it's like I don't know if it's maybe during the day on Saturday or whatever. But those are the mid-tier teams, right? So you're not going to watch those. So I mean, they picked a good time to have it. Obviously, we had talked about how the schedule sucks, and it shouldn't be this late anyway. But if they're gonna have it in December, like this is a good week to have increased viewership, etc. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what the numbers say. But going forward into our off season, we have mentioned multiple times within this podcast, going forward, we're gonna have more off-season stuff, obviously, and next week will be very off-season focused. I had seen that we were supposed to announce roster moves here soon. Does anybody know or remember the date? Yesterday?
It was November 3rd, but I think because of us just playing, they're going to give us a little bit of leeway on making roster decisions.
Any update on that, or is that all we got?
So the 3rd was supposed to be obviously today's 4th. Probably by the end of the week, you'll get some notice on roster decisions. Trades start on the 11th for MLS. 14th, I think becomes more where you can start to sign free agents, I believe. So you're going to see a lot more roster moves. But to Sam's point, in this off season, I hate that we're at this point. It's been just an unbelievable season. I want to thank everyone who's watched, our podcast. We've had an unbelievable, first season to even report on for the team. I've never felt more sentimental about a team besides the Bengals team that went to the Super Bowl, to be honest with you, but just so connected with these players. So these roster decisions are going to be kind of hard to see. But moving forward with all the competitions we have next year, I'm excited. There's a lot of opportunity. We have unbelievable staff who's staying. So I have full confidence in what they are going to create. But again, to Sam's point, next several episodes, kind of a recap, talking about transfers we're thinking about, roster moves, stuff like that. I really want to go to Zach's point that he said several months ago. I think, next episode with a total recap of the season, we're going to do a total tally for jersey swap. And we're going to give you guys our Fine Line jersey swap of the year. We'll do a card of the year and things like that to kind of recap the season and to really see, where some of these players stand in our eyes. But unbelievable season overall. It's been awesome.
Zach, any point on that?
In just a few quick short months, we'll have the season right again. I mean, I don't know if they've announced it yet, but I mean, hell, it's right around the corner. So, I mean, off season's not gonna be long like it has in the past. So, I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for what.
So I saw you said the off season shorter. I saw that the off season they have is like 4 to 6 weeks. I'm not even kidding you. It's like 4 to 6 weeks, and then they start up again. The amount of time between the last game and the game we just played, was a week, but the one before that, the Philly game, was 21 days, which is essentially the off season that we will have before we start our training camp again. So MLS, get your stuff together, because that's ridiculous that their off season is almost the length of the break between games in the playoffs. Okay, that's just dumb. But Zach, we're in the Champions Cup, which is this South American, North American tournament. And that starts up in very early February with the potential that we'll host some games during that time. So, bring your coats and your snow wear, because we thought it was cold in December. February is going to be a different animal.
Yeah, to your point on hosting games, I think maybe next episode we touch a little bit on Copa America as well, because the host cities came out. So we'll probably touch on that as well. But any final thoughts from anybody else before we give Zach his trivia of the week answer?
I'm really excited to do these end of the year awards. Really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm curious to see as to the tallies. I could probably tell you based on performances where it's at, but I am interested to see. I think we definitely have an honorary one. Again, I want to shout out Alice Powell, because he's just been such a huge follower of us, actually, and the early stages of our podcast here. But I really hope that we can find a spot for him. I think he's already signed in for next year.
Yeah.
I can't say how much I appreciate to see him step into the position he had to be put in the playoffs, and how he's kind of grown into his role too, considering he's a right back, at heart. So to play center back too and to fill in there has been awesome. So I just wanted to shout him out one more time again.
Yeah. All right. So Zach, give us the trivia of the week answer.
All right, I'll reread the question. How many teams have won the Supporters Shield to go on to win MLS Cup? We've got Sam, who said 5 teams, and his teams were Seattle, LA Galaxy, DC United, the Crew, and LAFC. And then Ryan said 4 with DC, LA Galaxy, LAFC, and Seattle. The answer is 6 teams. So you guys are both close. But you guys actually named either half or just over half of the teams listed. DC United, LA Galaxy, Kansas City, Wizards, Toronto FC, LAFC, and the Crew.
It's hard, man. It's hard to win multiple championships in a single year.
Yeah, and
And
DC United and LA Galaxy have done it twice. They're the only two.
Hagman
wow.
was a part of that 2017 Toronto team.
I think that was also the year they won the Canadian Championship, if I remember.
They had a Treblay.
Yes, in that respect, yes.
Interesting.
So, I mean, yeah.
If you count
Again,
it.
for all these opportunities to win trophies, like I'm happy we got one. Like, you know, we got our first trophy. We'll kind of review that again next episode. But hey, we got a trophy. You can't be mad about that. We were the best team in the regular season over the course of what, 7-8 months. That's a huge accomplishment in itself, because anywhere else around the world, again, that would be the best. That would be the pinnacle.
Agreed. Obviously, tough loss, but next season, hopefully building on it. And to Ryan's point, we got one trophy. Let's continue to 2 to 3 and keep going up. So thanks, everybody.
We don't want 2. We don't want 3. We don't want 4. We want 5. We want 6. Was that LeBron? I think that was LeBron.
Yes, that was LeBron. But I want to thank everybody for listening to this episode. Once again, check us out on TikTok, Instagram, Spotify, YouTube. Just give us some support. We appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.